guys, Ken here, your Thrifty Apprentice, and in today's video we are going to be creating these really whimsical mushroom house tags. Now these tags can be used for your junk journals, your art journals, or just simply to paint on in order to get your day of art creation started, or to have something fun to do in order to break you out of a little rut. You can use them with your kids or your classes. I think that this is just a sort of a wonderful little fun thing to do, and it really helps get you into artwork with shading. So what we have here are little mushroom houses that I've done with watercolor pencils, and each one of the houses have been bagged with a different type of paper. Here we have mixed media, and the one we're going to be doing in the video today is also bagged with mixed media paper so that they can be tucked into your art journals as additions, or as I said earlier, just doing some water soluble work on. Here, these two have been bagged with file folder, and that's more for drawing or for just doing some journaling if you want to jot down a quick note or affirmation or something of the sort. So I just thought these were really cute, and I wanted to share them with you guys today. I'm going to be using mixed media paper to do the artwork on. I'll be using Derwent watercolor pencils, but you can use whatever brand of paper or product that you want. You can even do acrylic or watercolor paints, whatever you choose to do. So we're going to jump right in. We're going to make these. I do want to point out, you can see that some of the spots on my roofs are a little oddly shaped, and that's because the paint ran up under the stencil, but instead of seeing it as a mistake, I just kind of worked it into the artwork, as you can see. So we're going to jump right in and get started with making these, and I hope you guys come along with me and have a ball doing it. Okay, so we are jumping right in now. As I told you guys, I am working on mixed media paper. This is Creative Mark Universal Pad, 140-pound cold pressed mixed media paper. You guys have seen me work on this plenty of times before. I picked it up from Jerry's Autorama. I've sketched out my whimsical mushroom house, just basic design. I've been transferring it on a bunch of different sheets with transfer paper from the original sketch. And you'll see here I grabbed circles, pre-made circle templates from just around the house in order to do my door and windows. Now, I do try to keep things as simple as possible when I am putting up a video, just in case a person, can't draw or is new or is a beginner. They'll find easy ways in order to try to pull off the compositions that we do on the channel. So after I sketched, or should I say, trace those circles in order to do the door as well as the windows, I'm going to go in and start to color my mushroom house. Now, I started off with my Derwent pencils. These are a 36 count watercolor pencil that I'm testing for review, and I do believe this color is called Kingfisher Blue, if I'm not mistaken. I used that to lay down the base layer on the roof, and now I'm using the ultramarine to shade in on the areas where I feel like shadow would be hitting the roof, to the side that does not have much sun, as well as up under the roof where it meets the actual house. So out of those areas, I colored in with the ultramarine blue. And then I grabbed the Kingfisher blue and went on top of all of that, just to cover it all with another layer of pigment. Now, I really like watercolor pencils, and if you guys have been following me for any amount of time, you probably already know that they are one of my favorite things to create with, simply because you can use them as a pencil, but they also have watercolor effects and abilities, so you can just turn it into a paint right on the paper. Amazing product. Love it. So you saw me use Imperial Purple and Dark Violet in order to color the base of the house. Imperial Purple, was the base layer. And then I went back in to add my shadow and shading with the deep violet color. That's going to be right where the house meets the roof, as well as the unlit side of the house where the roof would sort of lean over the side of the house. I was having so much fun doing these they're just time consuming. You know, it is quite a bit of work because you are using a pencil to shape everything in. As I told you guys earlier, you could use any product that you want in order to do this composition. You could do it in all acrylic. You can use other water soluble products like paints or even pastels. I could see this being done in watercolor crayon or watercolor oil pastel, or hey, even oil pastel itself, if you chose to do it that way. Now, I'm not sure if you could actually make a tag or if I would make a tag out of it to be inserted into a journal, but I would definitely use it, do it as an independent piece of artwork. I was thinking to myself, maybe I'll do a big background and then lay a couple of the whimsical houses out on that background at different layers in order to make them look like, you know, they're at varying depths. I might give that a whirl, that idea a whirl, just to see how it turns out. And I don't know, these houses just pulled me into this whole fantasy land. And I'm really glad they did, guys, because I wanted something fun to do. I feel like lately I've been forcing myself to do art. But that wasn't the case here. I wanted to do this and it was so much fun. And I had to actually make myself stop in order to take the video because I was just making them. So yeah, now that I've rambled on about that, sorry guys. You can see here I'm using shades of green. I'm not sure what shade of green that was. Now that I'm doing this, looking back at it, I would have to go check. But I use green and orange to do the drapes. And the house is done, not the house, I'm sorry, but the door. The lighter base layer is bronze, and then the shadowing layer, where you would see the planking in the door, was done with Van Dyke brown. So now comes time to disperse all the pigment on the house. I grabbed a number 6 round synthetic brush. This again is a Creative Mark product from Jerry's Autorama. I'm kind of getting tongue tied. I'm sorry, guys. But I use that with very little water on it, as I tell you guys most times, in order to go in and disperse that pigment. Now, these pencils react so well to water. The pigment releases so easily with just the slightest touch of a damp brush. I really enjoyed that aspect. The color, the pigment, the saturation was so nice. And it may have looked like I put a lot of pigment down, but the truth of the matter is I was not coloring heavy at all. So that lends to, you know, the quality of the pencils, and that they do come highly pigmented. With that said, they smudged a lot as well. That's why you see the napkin under my hand. And that's also the reason I decided to cut this house away from the bigger sheet of paper that I was doing the other ones on, simply because the color was just smudging until I added water to, you know, spread that pigment around. So that's something to keep in mind. These pencils do smudge quite a bit, and I'll get to that more when I get to the review. Now, what you've seen me doing throughout the video is simply, you know, dispersing the pigment, getting the very first layer down and getting the house covered. Now here, after we disperse the pigment from the coloring layer, I grabbed each of those pencils, and then I'm taking a damp brush and I'm actually picking the color up from the lid directly and then taking it to the paper in order to add more color and more saturation for the second layer. Now, this is a great way to use your pencils. You kind of turn them into like this mini watercolor pan or palette. You could also take those pencils and scribble a bunch of them out on a piece of paper and use that as well. Either way, that lends to the versatility of watercolor pencils. Not only can you use them to illustrate and draw with directly, you can also literally paint with them. So very, very versatile product. Very versatile product. Okay, so you'll see that I am taking each individual color and I'm going back in and I'm adding a second layer to each section of the little mushroom house, by picking color up from the pencil lid and just, you know, going over each of the sections, and it just smooths the color out so well, and it layered on so well. I was really enjoying not just the composition I was doing, but the product that I was using as well. So here I'm just going back and forth, adding on more color with each pencil until I am happy with the saturation, happy with the balance of the shadows versus the light side of the house. Just wanted to, although it was something whimsical and playful, I still wanted the house to have sort of a three-dimensional feel. You know, I wanted it to look round. So I'm just checking everything to make sure that I'm happy with that. And once I was satisfied, it was time to actually do some fine lining. Here we are again with another Creative Mark product. This is the Super Black series of fine liners by Creative Mark. Picked them up from Jerry's Autorama. I'm starting to sound like I'm endorsing Jerry's. No affiliation. This video is not sponsored. I just happen to have products from there, and Creative Mark is a really decent brand. I enjoy the products, and they're affordable. So I'm fine lining everything. I used a wider nib for a fine liner for the base of the house, and then I switched over to a finer or a smaller nib in order to do the roof, the detailing in the window, the detail around the door of the house. So all of that is being done with a smaller size fine liner than the actual base of the house itself was done with. So we're just going to finish up the fine lining here. Just adding the last little detail to the roof, and then moving on to adding in some circles on the shades of the curtains. What do you call those? Valances? I think. I believe so. And I used little circles or dots, polka dots, because I really wanted them to match what I was doing to the roof of the house. So now here I'm masking, and this is a technique from card making. May be familiar with it. But basically, instead of using masking fluid, I'm going to use a sticky note to lay down over the area I do not want to put paint on. Now, of course, we know this roof is round and the sticky note is square. So we're going to have to do some tracing and cut it out so that we will only have the sticky note on the base part of the roof and leave the top exposed for the dots that I was going to do. Now here I'm going to use a stencil. Now, although I taped this stencil down, and I was really careful to try to make sure not to pounce too hard or, you know, put too much on it, I still made the paint run under the template. So we're just going to have to go with it. And like on the other houses that happened to, we're going to simply work it into the composition. You can see there, some of those circles, the paint went under the stencil. So those circles were not uniform. But you worry, I didn't fret. I grabbed my fine liner and I went back to darken in the black lines around the outside of the roof. And then I'm going to take that fine liner and I'm actually going to trace around each one of those circles. Now, the ones that I had the little accidents on, I'm not going to try to correct or remove. I'm simply going to incorporate it as part of the circle that it's next to and make it bigger and wider. I personally think that it added a little character to it. It made each one look a little different, have a different little feel to it. Mistakes can be the most wonderful things. I think it was Bob Ross who said we don't make mistakes, we have happy accidents. So here I'm just going to go ahead and add some highlighting to the house. So I'm highlighting the side of the house that would have sunlight hitting it. And you guys know I highlight heavily. I like that. I like that look. Of course, you do not have to do this way. You don't have to do any of this my way. I just wanted to give you the idea. You do it your way, okay? So now that we're done with the illustration, it's time to turn it into a tag. Here I'm grabbing a piece of mixed media paper by Master's Touch. That's 140-pound cold press acid-free paper. And I'm going to be using my Fabric Fix wonderful silicone glue, fabric to fabric, fabric to paper, paper to paper. No affiliation with them either. Just a wonderful glue that does not warp your paper because it's not water-based. And of course, I have on my gloves because I am working with mixed media backing, and I do not want to put any oils from my hands on the paper that I'm adding to the back of the little house journaling card that we're making. So there, I've got it glued down. I'm going to grab a card and go over the back of it to make sure that it is really adhered and flat, even out the front. Yeah. And once that's done, I'm going to grab some scissors and we are going to go ahead and cut this baby out. Cutting as close to the black line without going into the illustration as I can. And take your time. I tend to move my paper and not my scissors, and try my best not to move my scissors off of the cut until I have completely cut out the entire image. I think that's left over from my fashion design days. Here I'm going to grab, what is that? That's Master's Touch. That's Master's Touch. Yeah. Master's Touch water-based fine line markers. They come in a wide variety of colors, and I'm just using it to darken in the shadow area around the door and to darken in that area that would run between each wooden plank, just to make the door stand out just a little bit more, give it a little bit more definition. I think it looks good. There, I'm just showing you those fine liners, that pack that it came in. Yeah, like I told you guys, we have a Master's Touch video coming up because I have a lot of those products, and we are going to go over everything I have in my studio labeled Master's Touch as soon as I review the rest of the products that I haven't gotten to. Here, I'm just adding some gray, light and dark to the door, and that's going to bring us to an end of doing the actual card and tag, guys. Yeah, this was super duper fun. Here, I'm just going to lay all three of these out for you to see. And I hope you guys painted along, joined along, had fun. Now, look, don't use ink or ink pad to ink, especially if you backed it with mixed media paper. Use a fine liner so you don't mess up the back. Okay, guys, so there you have it. We created a little whimsical mushroom house tag, and we backed it with mixed media paper. It will be wonderful to tuck into a art journal. As I was telling guys earlier, let me show you what I mean really quickly. Here is an art journal that I currently work on reconstructing. It's a Jane Davenport art journal, and I have a lot of work in here. But I've been turning it into one of my art books, as you guys know I call them, which is a mixture of a art journal and a junk journal. So I've been redoing this one, and here I've already started. This is a project that I'll eventually show you guys. But as you can see, this is that final painting we did from the simple watercolor mini series. I just took that and incorporated it into my art journal this way. Now, as you can see, I've added some things in, created some tucks and folds and pockets in different areas of the art journal in order to insert additions, right? So here I have this little whimsical house. This idea I picked up on from Natasha over at Treasure Books. That's a wonderful channel. And in all honesty, my little whimsical mushroom house idea was kind of a spin-off of this. It kind of put the thought in my head, and I just had to find a way to make it my own. So this is backed with mixed media paper, so it just tucks right inside this little pocket here for additional painting space or drawing space or even writing space. And then you can also do the same thing with your little mushroom houses. Look, guys, I'm just gonna stick that one. It could tuck in that little tuck there, fold in. It's incorporated into your art journal. How wonderful is that? And you know, I'm going to be working on this book, and throughout different videos you're going to get to see different things that I've done in it. But I just think these are so whimsical. You can stick them into your little pockets. Look at there, right? You can stick it into your little side pockets, your little side tucks. Yes, this thing has a whole lot of little things I made in tucks on it. So, you know, really whimsical and cute way to add fun and vibrancy to anything that you may be doing. So yeah, guys, there you have it. Hopefully you picked up on some little tips and tricks or techniques that you saw that you may like. If you did, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I would really, really, really appreciate it. Please share the video. Remember that sharing is caring, and there may be someone else out there who would love to know this information. You can hit us up on all the social sites, Facebook, TikTok, as well as Instagram. And don't forget to source out the Thrifty Apprentice sponsored Facebook page, paints, pencils, pastels, and markers. Wonderful group of artists and crafters who encourage each other and share and grow, and I love it. It's growing more, and I really thank you guys for being so respectful and so nice in that group. Is there anything else? Don't forget that there's a link in the video description for my most recommended products in case you're interested. And remember, as I tell you guys at the end, wasn't this such a cute project? I'm so in love with the little whimsical mushroom houses. I'm about to go crazy. Oh my God. And as I tell you guys at the end of every single video, just keep painting and crafting.